The sun was melting into the horizon, turning the endless stretch of Texas plains into a sea of gold and blood red. The air was still, heavy with dust and heat, and the only sound was the dry whisper of the wind against the grass. Emma tightened her grip on the steering wheel as her old pickup began to cough and wheeze. She had been driving for hours, chasing the last bit of daylight, hoping to make it into town before nightfall. But fate, as always, had other plans. The truck gave one last sputter before it died completely, jerking to a stop on the narrow dirt road. Smoke curled lazily from the hood, carrying with it the acrid scent of burnt oil. "Oh, come on, not now," Emma muttered, slamming her palms against the steering wheel. She climbed out, squinting at the open land around her. There was nothing. No houses, no barns, no sign of another soul for miles. The silence felt wrong, too deep, too still. Emma popped the hood, hoping it was something simple, a loose wire, maybe. But when she looked inside, confusion settled in her chest. The engine was hissing softly, but nothing looked familiar. Her father had always been the one to fix things. He'd taught her how to change a tire and fill the tank, but that was about it. She stared for another helpless minute before stepping back, dusting her hands against her jeans. And that's when she saw the sky. The blue was fading fast, replaced by heavy gray clouds that rolled across the horizon like an approaching army. A storm, and by the look of it, a bad one. She glanced at her phone, but of course, there was no signal. The temperature dropped a little as the first gust of wind swept through the tall grass, making the landscape ripple like a restless ocean. Then, far down the road, a set of headlights appeared, small, distant, cutting through the dimming light. Her heart leapt. Relief flooded her, mixed with a thin thread of unease. Out here, in the middle of nowhere, a stranger could be salvation, or something else entirely. She waited, squinting as the truck approached. It was a big, dark Ford with mud-caked tires and a slow, deliberate pace. The driver pulled over and cut the engine, dust billowing around them. The door creaked open, and out stepped a tall man in a worn brown jacket and faded jeans. A wide-brimmed hat shaded most of his face, but the last streak of sunset caught his jaw, strong, lined with stubble. He looked older than her by maybe 10, 15 years, built like someone who spent his life outdoors. "You all right, ma'am?" His voice was low, smooth, with that steady drawl that seemed to belong to the land itself. Emma swallowed. "Truck died on me. I think it overheated or something. Please, I'm begging you, hurry up. The storm's coming in fast." He didn't answer right away. Instead, he gave a small nod, stepped forward, and lifted the hood with one easy motion. The metal groaned in the wind. He leaned in, studying the engine with quiet focus. For a moment, the silence returned, only the rustle of the wind and the far-off roll of thunder filled the space between them. Then his shoulders stiffened. Slowly, he looked up, meeting her eyes. "You might want to step back," he said quietly. Something in his tone made her blood run cold. "What is it?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. He didn't answer. His hand moved toward something deep in the engine, not a wire, not a hose. Something else. He looked at her again, and this time his voice was sharper. "Now, ma'am," he said. "Step back. Don't ask questions." The wind howled through the grass as the first drops of rain began to fall. The wind roared across the open plains as Emma stumbled backward, her boots skidding in the dirt. The rancher's tone left no room for argument. Something was very wrong. He reached into the truck's engine compartment, his fingers brushing against a small, square object tucked behind a tangle of wires. For a brief second, a faint red light blinked. Then his jaw tightened. "Run," he said flatly. Emma froze. "What do you mean, run?" he barked, louder this time, grabbing her wrist with a firm, calloused hand. Before she could think, he was pulling her toward his dark pickup, boots pounding against the hard packed road. The first clap of thunder broke overhead, drowning her gasp as they climbed into his truck. He slammed the door shut, turned the key, and the engine roared to life. They had barely driven a dozen yards when the explosion came. A deafening blast split the night, sending a burst of fire and smoke into the air. Emma's old pickup was engulfed in flames, metal twisting and glass shattering. The shockwave rattled the rancher's truck, and for a second, Emma thought they'd tip over. Her hands trembled as she clutched the seatbelt, eyes wide with disbelief. He didn't look back. He just drove, fast and silent, his face illuminated by flashes of lightning. It wasn't until they were several miles away that he finally slowed down. The storm was in full fury now, rain pelting the windshield, wipers struggling to keep up. The road ahead was slick and shining, and his knuckles were white on the steering wheel. Emma turned toward him, her voice shaking. "What was that?" "My truck. It just..." He cut her off with a short breath. "Someone wanted you dead." She stared at him, the words echoing in her head. "What are you talking about? That's insane." He glanced at her, his eyes dark and unreadable beneath the brim of his hat. "You didn't see the device I pulled out. It wasn't part of your engine. That was a detonator, a remote charge." Emma's mouth went dry, her heart hammered so hard she could hear it in her ears. "You're saying someone planted a bomb in my truck? Why? I don't even know anyone out here." The rancher said nothing for a long time. Only the rain spoke, relentless, heavy, pounding against the roof. Then, quietly, he said, "Maybe not out here. But someone followed you." She turned to him sharply. "How do you know that?" He hesitated, then exhaled through his nose. "Because I've been seeing the same black SUV on this road for 3 nights straight. Same license plate, same route. I thought they were after me, but now I'm not so sure." Emma's stomach twisted. None of this made sense. She had only moved to this county a month ago, trying to start fresh after a bad breakup and a city job that drained her. Who would want her dead? As the storm thundered around them, she studied the man beside her. His jaw was clenched, his focus unshakable. There was something in his expression, a weight, a secret. "You knew this was coming," she said softly. His grip tightened on the wheel. "I had a feeling. Didn't know it'd find you instead." Lightning flashed, illuminating his profile, hard, weathered, determined. Emma swallowed the lump in her throat. "So, what now?" He finally looked at her, eyes steady. "Now, we find out who set that trap, and why they wanted to make sure neither of us walked away tonight." Outside, thunder rolled like the sound of hooves across the plains. And in that moment, as they drove deeper into the dark storm, Emma realized something chilling. The rancher hadn't just saved her life. He'd dragged her into his secret, and whatever came next would change both their lives forever.